Ball tracking is one of the most important skills in tennis, and it's something that a lot of players struggle with. Now, the reason that so many players find it hard to track the ball through to contact is that the quality of their eye movements and the visual skills required to track the ball aren't functioning at a sufficiently high level. Now, I've made a number of different videos that show you training drills to help improve those eye movements, and I'll place a link to one of them down in the description, because here I want to talk about something a little bit different that goes a little bit deeper, and that is the role of nutrition and how well your visual system functions, because vision is basically controlled by your brain. Your eyes are like camera lenses, and their job is to point at the ball or whatever other target you're looking at. We've got 6 different muscles that move our eyes in different directions. That's what I show you training drills for. Those muscles are controlled by brain areas. The different brain areas move our eyes in different directions. We've got different parts of the brain for slow movements, certain parts of the brain for fast movements. There's lots of different parts of the brain. So your ability to see the ball clearly, to track the ball onto your strings, ultimately comes down to how these areas of the brain are functioning. Now, how nutrition fits into this is, in order for brains to do their job, the brain cells need to be able to produce energy efficiently. And we need to get oxygen and glucose to those parts of the brain so they can do their job efficiently. And then when we've got oxygen and glucose there, the cells themselves produce ATP and energy. Well, inflammation, when our brains become inflamed, inflammation prevents our brain cells from producing energy efficiently. And if the parts of the brain that create and control eye movements don't produce energy efficiently, they can't do their job properly, and you can't track the ball properly. And this is probably one of the reasons why sometimes you feel like you can really track the ball, and then other days you just cannot see things as well, because basically your body, your brain has become inflamed, and it's prevented things from working in the way that they should. And the nutrition you eat is one of the biggest potential sources of inflammation. Obviously, there's lots of different things that can cause inflammation in the body, but nutrition is a biggie, because we eat foods, gets broken down in our digestive system. Our digestive system is directly connected to our brain via the vagal nerve. So if we eat foods that our digestive system doesn't agree with, that our immune system isn't too happy about, it creates a whole bunch of inflammation that can then cause inflammation to travel up to the brain, create inflammation in the brain, and prevent these areas working as well. And it's something that I really used to struggle with. Some days I could see, some days I just could not see the ball, and addressing my nutrition was a big part of it. So I wanted to make this video for you to help you understand that this might be going on with you as well. So now I want to talk about the types of food that you might potentially want to avoid. Okay, when it comes to nutrition, the key thing is to understand that there is no one size fits all. Just like there's no perfect forehand, there's no perfect diet either. People have different genetics, different digestive systems, different nervous systems, different immune systems. So it's about finding what works for you. But now that I've said that, there are certain foods based on research and real world evidence that we know are far more likely to create inflammation in people. Now, it's not for me to decide what you should eat. I'm not telling you to eat or not eat anything. I'm just teaching you stuff that I've learned over the course of 20 years worth of research and working with people on this type of thing. And then it's up to you to do what you feel is right for you. The first thing I would recommend not eating is junk and processed food. It's called junk food because it's junk, candies, cakes, blah, 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 in addition to containing ingredients which can just directly wind the digestive systems up and cause inflammation. They've normally got a whole bunch of chemicals in that we have to detoxify. It just burns through energy reserves and nutrients that we could be using for doing lots of other wonderful things. So if you want to be the best tennis player that you can, you want good quality eye movements on court, don't eat junk food. I'm not saying never, depending who you are. For me, I try to never eat it because I eat some junk food and it messes me up for a while. People have a different response, but generally junk food, we definitely want to get rid of it. Now after that, now we kind of get into the kind of the big things, because that one's an obvious one. People know that that's bad for them. The next most likely food to create problems in terms of inflammation is gluten. So wheat, rye, and barley. A lot of people hear and they're like, no, gluten's fine. No, it isn't. There is a massive, and I mean massive, amount of research on what impact gluten can have on people. No humans, based on the research that we've got, have the enzymes to fully break down gluten. And because we can't fully break down the different proteins within gluten, there is a large potential for your immune system and digestive system to not be too happy when you eat it. Now again, there's variation. Some people can eat gluten, they can't fully digest it, but they can eat it without any actual problems occurring. And then we've got the other end of the spectrum. We've got celiac and non-celiac gluten sensitivity. These people, gluten just destroys. I'm at this end of the spectrum. Djokovic, I think, is at this end of the spectrum because we all know his story. He did very well by removing it. I don't know where you fit in. You could be down here or you could be completely fine with it. But in terms of the research, there is a massive amount of research about what gluten can do to the body, and what they find is it affects a small number of people's digestive systems. For most people, it creates neurological problems, of which that's what we're talking about here. So gluten might be worth consideration. The next thing that we'd be looking at is dairy. Dairy can be a fantastic food for a lot of people. Great source of protein, great source of nutrients. Or it can really wind up people's immune system. So you could be at that end of the spectrum and be completely fine with dairy. I'm right down that end of the spectrum, not doing so well with dairy, but it's about finding what works for you. I can tolerate butter, but sadly, I can't tolerate milk or cheese because I love cheese. Okay, so that's dairy, that's next. They're the two biggies. Honestly, if you take that away from most people are going to notice really good improvements from doing that in terms of cognitive function. And if you do some vision training and remove those foods, that can be a very effective strategy for improving the quality of your eye movements and ball tracking. But after that, we get a little bit more mixed. So for some people, corn can be a real problem. I know my girlfriend does terribly with corn. I do okay with it. So there's a range, but that can be problematic for a lot of people. Legumes, so things like chickpeas and lentils, I again don't do so well with those. I think Djokovic eats quite a lot of those. So again, you know, it works really well for him, obviously, because he's ridiculous. It doesn't work so well for me. It's about you finding what works for you. A lot of people can't handle grains, so other types of grains, in addition to what we've talked about, I fit in with that category. I do well on a grain-free diet. You might be completely fine eating rice and gluten-free oats, or you might not. It's about testing to find what works for you. Some people don't do very well with nuts. I do well with nuts. Some people don't. Again, it's about you finding what works for you. The nightshade family, so potatoes and bell peppers and tomatoes, again, I do great with those. Some people don't do well with those. Chocolate and caffeine and coffee can be a problem for some people. I'm okay with those three, but they're kind of the big ones that often come up. And I guess one more that I should probably add in are kind of the gums and strange things that they put in gluten-free goods, because often when people go gluten-free, they just try and replace the bread that wasn't agreeing with them with a gluten-free bread. And I know that I've made this mistake, because who doesn't like bread? And they just fill them with like guar gum and all this sticky stuff that really winds my digestive system up. How you respond, I don't know, but I just want to make you aware that it is definitely a possibility. But that's the way I would think about things. We've got junk food, obviously, then we've got gluten, then we've got dairy, then we've got corn, we've got legumes, we've got grains. That's normally as far as most people go. Honestly, just removing, you know, the first couple tend to go a long, long way for people. But I wanted to make this video just to make you aware that this sort of thing can have a big impact on your performance. So if you're interested in really improving your cognitive function, and along with that, I include your ability to make good, accurate eye movements so you can track the ball, this is something that's definitely worth exploring. It was completely game-changing for me. I know Djokovic did okay with it, so the chances are there are other people out there who would really benefit from this information as well. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed this video and found it to be beneficial. Don't shoot the messenger. I spent many years researching and learning and working with people, but it's up to you what you eat. It is completely your choice. Now, if you did enjoy this type of video, you should definitely check out that video that I talked about earlier that's going to go into some exercises to help you improve the quality of your eye movements and ball tracking.